Hey guys, AaronNoticz here. Let's talk about DC's Titans. Now, Titans is a weird show for me to categorize in. With the other DC shows currently airing, I know which ones I like and which ones I don't. Flash, Supergirl, Gotham, as of their current seasons, I'm not a fan. Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow, I do enjoy. But with Titans, it's kinda hard to say, because I don't flat out hate the show. There's a lot of things that they were able to nail, but also a lot of poor decisions and inconsistencies on their part. The thing with Starfire and Raven is, I don't necessarily hate the actresses portraying them, it's just that I feel like they weren't given the appropriate materials to work with. They were just kind of bland. And tell me, whose brilliant idea was it to dress her up like so? It needlessly draws attention as exemplified in these scenes. And it just looks bizarre and stupid. Now, Beast Boy out of the four leads is probably the most neglected. He barely gets screen time. The Doom Patrol episode was probably the only episode they focused on him. After that, well, he was just kind of in the background. Also, who here was disappointed he could only transform into a tiger? I understand that he's still learning about his powers, but couldn't they have at least given him 2 more animal forms? No? Just me? Okay. But even though we barely got any Beast Boy, he did well enough for me to like him. Now, just to get this out of the way, Nightwing is my absolute favorite superhero. Yes, in a world where Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, and other iconic characters exist, the former Batman sidekick is my favorite. So I might be a little biased with him on the show, so take this with a grain of salt. Surprisingly, well, not really, but Dick Grayson got the most development. Well, the story's not actually finished yet, so he will get more alongside the rest, but compared to his peers, he definitely got more. Even though the show's plot and story revolved around Raven and her story, the show focused more on Dick and his character. To tell you the truth, I'm actually quite conflicted with him. I will say that Brenton Thwaites, who plays him, is honest to God a great casting. However, the Dick Grayson he portrays is, well, not as likable. He's a lot darker than the Dick I fell in love with. One of the reasons why I love Dick Grayson so much is because of his optimistic nature. It's not because he's a great leader, or he's a great detective, or a great fighter. Don't get me wrong, all those things are pluses, but it's more because of his personality. He's a stark contrast to Batman, which is why him being his moral compass for all those years kinda made sense. Their dynamic worked so well, and this carried over even in his Nightwing days. He was a guy that would joke around even in life or death situations. Admittedly, this would cause a few problems, but overall that's what made him likable. You can always tell immediately that shit's about to go down whenever he's not joking around anymore. In the show, he barely smiles, is antisocial, always super serious, and super violent, which I understand is the point the writers are trying to make, but that's just not who Dick Grayson is. Even in the flashbacks, Dick is still the same. We don't get to see the fun and happy side to him, he's just sad and depressing. He's supposed to basically be a more optimistic version of Batman, but in the show, he's never been farther from that. He resembles more of Jason Todd, who is actually, surprisingly enough, present in the show as well. You know what? Let's talk about Jason Todd. Jason Todd, one of the things that the show outright nails. Karan Walters is no doubt in my mind Jason Todd. From the way he acts to the way he speaks, he is Jason Todd. Him beating up those cops was such a delight to see, context people, because that's something I can imagine Jason Todd doing. Hawk, Dove, and Troy were also nice surprises for sure. I didn't think I'd enjoy them as much as I did. I didn't even know Donna Troy was gonna be present, but she was, and they were awesome. Honestly, I kind of enjoyed the supporting characters more than I did the Titans themselves. And I think a big part of why is because the Titans aren't exactly good people. You know, like, they're not good people in the sense that they're kind of, well, savages. There's one thing about this show that I flat out hate. That would be the brutality it prominently featured on screen, especially with the Titans. And before you start calling me names pertaining to small feline creatures, let's just get things straight, okay? I'm not the type of guy that can't handle his violence. I watch Game of Thrones. I enjoy Attack on Titan. I've freaking seen 2 Girls, 1 Cup, alright? Believe me, nothing phases me at this point. Nothing. No. 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 No, 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 no! My point is, I'm not opposed to violence and gore on my fictional stories. Rather, it enhances it if done correctly. If there's a logical reason as to why you're showing this to me. In Titans, I'm not gonna say that the violence and gore are completely unnecessary, because there are scenes that actually do justify it going that far. Case in point, Jason Todd beating up those cops. But there are also scenes where it is unnecessary. Case in point, the diner fight. I think Starfire beating up the douchebag was enough, but they just had to one-up that. So, Starfire jams a fork through his fist. Or the asylum, where Dick Grayson convinces Starfire to blow up the facility, killing potentially dozens of people. Where they could have just easily escaped cause A, the security was shit, and B, it was all part of the enemy's plan anyways. The frustrating part about that scene is that Dick is responsible for this. I know the guy's having an identity crisis, but come on! Even in his worst days, Dick Grayson would not have let that happen. I feel like they're pushing that R rating so hard that it just comes off sometimes as being, well, try-hard edgy, which is a bit sad to think about because the writing in this show is surprisingly solid aside from maybe a few duds here and there. If we're being honest, this show can hook you with its solid plot and storytelling. The way they chose to center the story around Raven was brilliant and gave each character a believable reason as to why they're there. Starfire lost her memories and she believes that Raven is the key to getting it back. Nightwing sees a lot of himself in Raven and ultimately becomes a catalyst in his development in the show. Beast Boy wanted to extend a helping hand to Raven like how he was given when he needed help, and eventually found a friend in her. Also, the way they incorporated Jason Todd, Hawk, and Dove, and even Donna Troy in the story made sense. I also love the fact that they went from city to city and was basically a road trip story. The weird thing about this show is that it can feel very immersive, with like great storytelling, great plot, pacing, but can pull you back to reality with lines like,
"My mom says there's no such thing as monsters. I think she was wrong."
You never liked trouble. So teach me how to like it.
I'm sorry I was right about your friend wanting to kill Rachel.
You weren't. Corey's not a killer. Corey's not a killer. She kills people sometimes. None of this makes sense. Corey loves Rachel. She's done nothing but try to help him. What we saw back there That wasn't the real Corey.
Or sloppy CGI. But you know what? In this case, the good definitely outweighs the bad. Now let's move on to what I found the best and worst episode of the season. Worst. Hard to pick because I don't think you can say that there was actually any episode that was objectively bad, but if I had to pick, it would probably be Season 1, Episode 8, Donna Troy. Mostly because while the Donna Troy storyline of the episode was good, the other one, Beast Boy, Starfire Raven, and their mom going to their house in Ohio, wasn't. It felt like they were dragging the train scene as much as they could because nothing really important happened there. And we spent almost half the episode there. Best? Easy. Season 1, Episode 9, Hank and Dawn. This episode was refreshing, compelling, and overall just a great episode. Seeing Hank and Dawn's story was a nice surprise. I cared for Donnie. I cared for the guy. Like, I really did. Needless to say, it was heartbreaking what happened to him. Also, that montage with Hank and Dawn getting to know each other never fails to put a smile on my face. A lot of people might not have liked this episode, but this was definitely the pinnacle of the season, at least for me. And the fact that it was an episode that barely featured a Titan says a lot, doesn't it? Before I move on to my final thoughts and where I think the series might go from here, I want to talk about the finale. Season 1, Episode 11, The Grayson. That was an interesting episode. On the one hand, I enjoyed every aspect of the episode, but at the same time, I hated every damn aspect of the episode being a season finale. Why? 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 Why make that episode the finale? The entire season felt like it was leading up to something. Maybe beating Trigon, maybe officially forming the team, I don't know, something. But instead it led to an episode that isn't even a Titans episode, but maybe a Gotham episode featuring Dick Grayson and a few cameos from the other Titans, but it's not a Titans episode. So again, I ask why. Oh wait, I know why. Because this was the first DC Universe show, so of course they'd want you to subscribe and come back for the second season. That's why cliffhanger. But cliffhangers aren't necessarily bad if done right. They should have given us some sort of payoff or resolution for following the entire season before dangling a Season 2 concept in our faces. This was a surprisingly competent show that would have benefited more if this wasn't based off of a pre-existing IP. I don't know, it's just that these are so clearly different from the Titans I'm used to that it almost feels like these are just the same characters in name only. But credit where credit is due, I guess. Even though that is the case, you can't deny the quality of this show. So the question here is, where should I place DC's Titans on my like or don't like list? Well, I think it's fair to say that DC's Titans was definitely better than I expected, especially since a lot of people really bashed this show as it was coming out. And this definitely affected me watching the show earlier. But yeah, I still enjoyed it and will most definitely be coming back for the second season. As to where the story might go from here, obviously they're going to be facing Trigon next season, though I'm not really sure if it's going to take a whole season or if they're going to introduce a new conflict next season, especially with Superboy coming in. If it was up to me, Trigon is such a great villain that I think they should focus on him for the entire season. But I don't know, maybe, maybe not. But yeah, those were my thoughts on Season 1 of DC's Titans. I hope you guys have a nice day, and if you like this video, then God bless your soul, I guess. I don't know, it's a free country, do whatever you want. This is Aaronoticz, blasting off. Peace.
シャララいつかきっと